Welcome to the Flame and Fiber podcast. My name is Barbara. You can find me on Instagram and Ravelry as Diva S. This is episode 38, and since my last podcast, we have had a Podiversary. I started this podcast September 10th of 2016, so it's 1 year. A little more, but it's been 3 weeks since I podcast. Did I say this is episode 38? And it is Monday, September 18th, 2017. So welcome. Thank you so much for checking out the podcast. If you're new, thank you for coming, and I hope you enjoy what you see. And if you are coming back, thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone who has sent me messages and commented and replied to threads and my Instagram and things like that. I really, really appreciate it. It's an amazing community, and I have made so many friends, some of whom I haven't met in person, but I do still feel like they are friends, and it's fun to be part of this community in a way that I wasn't a year ago. So thank you. I last year and a half ago or so, I explained this in my first episode, which I am not encouraging you to go and watch, because after I did that episode, my daughter called me and said, nobody who didn't know you would know, but you were really nervous. I said, yeah, I was really nervous. I wasn't surprised that I was nervous. I'm a little surprised that I'm not nervous anymore. Coffee. It's morning. And I gotta get going, because we have to take my sister-in-law and brother-in-law back to the airport in an hour and a half. So I only have an hour and a half. You would think that would be enough time, but I have a long list of things to talk about. So anyway, last year on Saturday, September 10th, in the morning I went to the New Jersey Sheep and Wool, and I met Mary Beth and Helen, who are the Crafty Toads, and I told them I was thinking about doing a podcast, and they were very encouraging. They were very sweet to meet, and I do consider them friends now. And then later that afternoon, I went, got all dressed up. I had my hair fixed, makeup, the whole 9 yards, because I went on a wine tour with my cousin. So it's been a year since I've seen her. I guess I need to make a plan. And so I don't know, the combination of the wine and being all dressed up and feeling like I looked okay, 10 o'clock at night, I decided I was going to record my first podcast. And I did. And so here we are, 38 episodes later, and thank you so much for those of you who have been with me for the journey and who have joined into the journey in the past year. I enjoy doing it, and I really appreciate the people who watch and comment and participate. I really do. So thank you so much. So anyway, this is my Podiversary episode. That's it. That's all. I have a page of notes, and some people talk about, I have 5 pages of notes. Well, I have a page of notes, but every one of these things is probably going to take me 20 minutes. So I don't know how long this podcast is, but like I say, you already know. So it's been 3 weeks since I podcast last, and I didn't realize when I podcast last that it would be 3 weeks, so I apologize for that extra week without notification. But I had the calendar in my head told me I would be podcasting once more before we went to North Carolina with Dennis's family, but that wasn't to be. I had actually thought about trying to do a podcast a little early and putting it up last Monday. I wouldn't have been able to upload it or do anything like that from our house in North Carolina. I knew that, but I thought I would be able to at least, do something. But that didn't turn out to work out either. Right before we went to North Carolina, we had to make the decision to put our lovely Dasha to sleep. She wasn't doing well, and she was doing very poorly, actually. And I've never had to make that decision before, and believe me, it is not an easy thing to do. So anyway, meant that, you know, those couple weeks before we left were very difficult, and so no podcasting happened, and so we're sad here, still sad, obviously, but we have our Pearl, and she's a charming, lovely puppy, and she is going to be an amazing dog, and we are really happy with her, so we're lucky to have her when it's a hard time like this. So anyway, I will put her picture up. Oh, I wasn't going to point where I was going to put the picture up, because it seems like every time I do that, I point to the wrong place. But it seems like I have room to put a picture there. I mean, I'm leaning over, so I'll have room for a picture, but maybe I'll try not to point anymore, because then I feel obligated to put the picture where I pointed, even if there isn't enough room. But I believe that's where the room will be. Anyway, that's our Pearly girl, and that's her chewing on she got a lovely package in the mail from David of the Dog Dare podcast. He is such a sweetheart. He sent 2 of these cute bears, one for her and one for Dasha. Dasha never got a chance to play with hers. And that was so lovely. And Pearl loves it. I should have made this a video, because she was squeaking that thing like crazy when I took that picture. So it would have been a cute video, but oh well. I did take a video of her chewing on a bone, which I may put at the end for those of you who are Pearl watchers and interested. She is growing so much. So Pearl is my German Shepherd puppy, who will be 6 months old in a week or so. So anyway, so that was our sad news since the last podcast. We've been sad here, but let's see. So the other thing the knitting thing that's been going on since I spoke to you last, I have been knitting all the sweaters. I have been a sweater machine. So last we were together, I was working on my Malin sweater by Isabel Kramer. Here's the pattern. And I finished it, and I am so happy with it. It turned out so fabulous. I was a little concerned that it was going to be too tight. So I blocked it. I stretched it when I blocked it, but I just stretched it with my hands. The only pins I used when I blocked it were at the back of the neck, because it looked like it was trying to fold backwards, and I wanted to make sure that it stayed. But otherwise, I just, anywhere I thought it might be a little bit skinny, I just stretched it a little bit, and I am so happy with it. And I will put a picture of me wearing it. This is an extremely warm sweater. It is not that cold today, so I decided not to wear it. And it's itchy. There is no two ways about it. This is itchy. When I was wearing it for the picture, Dennis took my picture, I had a short sleeve t-shirt on, and my arms were itchy. So I will not be able to wear this next to my skin. I had hoped that, you know, I might be able to, but I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to be able to. But this is a very warm sweater, so I will be wearing a long-sleeved t-shirt or turtleneck under it, and that will be okay, because I get cold and I want to be warm. So the only difference, I think, I'm pretty sure I used the same needle. This is how much yarn I have left over from the third cone. Now this is Harrisville Designs in the Dove Gray colorway. I got this in the sale bin at Rhinebeck. And one of the reasons that I decided to knit this sweater now was because Rhinebeck is coming up, and I thought maybe I was going to make a beeline to Harrisville to buy more yarn from their discount bin, because this cost me $5 a comb. So I used about $12 worth of yarn to make this sweater. I mean, you just can't beat it. And it's going to be warm. So, but since I can't wear it next to my skin, and I have another sweater's worth because I bought 4 cones of a burgundy color, I am not sure if I'm going to be buying more of this yarn. So we shall see. Just because you know, I have a lot of sweaters quantity. A softer sweater, maybe more. I may wear it more. I don't know. I wish I had made this last year right after I bought the yarn, so I would know how much I'm going to wear it, because I have a feeling I could wear it a lot. But I'm not sure. I like the way it looks. So anyway, I'm not sure if I'm going to buy more of the yarn. I should. For $15. It's crazy not to. Well, maybe I'll try to buy more of the yarn, and if I decide I don't want to make any more sweaters, I'll give the yarn away. It cost me $15 to mail it. So anyway, the only change that I made to the pattern was I read some of the comments, and the comments made me realize that in the pattern, the neck went very straight across the bottom here. So it was kind of an odd, I thought it was kind of odd, and I liked it a little more rounded. And so when I picked up the stitches for the neck, I picked them up a little more rounded than might be indicated by the shape of the front. In fact, it had a little tab, and that tab is still in here. So you can see from the back side, the front goes along here. And then because of the way the design is knit in, it ended up with this little funny little tab shape at the neck, which the pattern seemed to follow that shape, but I didn't like that shape. So I have this little tab of yarn still on the inside of my neckline, and I was trying to figure out what I should do about it, but you can't tell that I have that little tab. I don't think it's going to make any difference when I wear it, and so at this point I'm not doing anything about it, and I might do something about it sometime, but at this point I am not. But that's the only change I made. I am really, really happy with this sweater. So this is my first Rhinebeck sweater that I finished. I guess I'm hoping it's going to be chilly at Rhinebeck in October, because I won't be wearing this if it's not, because it's a very, very warm sweater. So, sweater number 1. And last episode of the podcast, I talked to you about, and I don't see it handy, the scarf I tried to make for my mother. My mother turns 85 in October. And a couple years ago, I bought this beautiful Tussa silk lace yarn that I wanted to make her a scarf with. And I have tried twice to make her a scarf with this yarn, and it has not worked. So I was thinking about that, and I decided that, and I'm a member of several knitting groups on Facebook, and someone, and I don't know who it was, and the post is long gone, you know how that is, suggested if you wanted to knit sweaters for a holiday, the pattern you should knit is called the Curry Inn. C-O-U-R-I-E space I-N by Little Theorem. Curry Inn is a Scottish phrase meaning to snuggle up. And she said, the person posting this said, this is a really fast knit. Let me tell you, she was not kidding. So I thought, oh, well, this will be this, I'll knit this sweater in North Carolina when I go on my vacation. I knit Hohi's grandpa sweater, bulky grandpa sweater last year. I knit the whole sweater in the week, and I was so proud of myself. So I decided maybe I'll do that. And I thought, oh, I generally go to the yarn shop on the Outer Banks. I think it's in Kitty Hawk. Knitting Addiction, which I did go to again this year. I always go. And I thought, well, I'll buy the yarn there. And then the more I thought about it, the more I thought, wait a minute, I should be supporting my local yarn shop by me. And so I went over, and my local yarn shop, it's about a half an hour from me. It's called Pearls of Wisdom in Phoenixville. It's actually in a little tiny town called Kimberton, but people talk about it like it's in Phoenixville. And so I decided I would go there and look for yarn. And we left on Saturday. This was the Saturday before. So this was the Saturday after I did my last podcast. And I ended up going to Pearls of Wisdom, and I ended up buying Rowan Cocoon, which is a bulky yarn. Shoot. I lost my... Anyway, bulky yarn. And it is made with merino wool and kid mohair. And it's a lovely squishy yarn. And so I went on Saturday and I cast this sweater on Sunday. And I'll tell you about my trip to the store later. But I cast this sweater on Sunday. And I finished the knitting of the sweater. I haven't blocked it yet, and I haven't woven in the ends, but I finished the knitting of the sweater during my knit night on Wednesday night. And I would have finished on Tuesday if I had had enough time, as much time knitting as I usually have. Now, my mother is my height, and we both have short arms, so I measured this to my arm. But my mother weighs 75 pounds less than I do, so I cannot try this sweater on for you. I do hope it fits her because she seems so small to me when I'm with her, but this is a pretty small sweater. But OMG, it is a very fast knit. It is an adorable sweater. And I really, really hope it fits her. Oh my gosh. So the construction of this is fascinating. And I will move my chair back up and talk about that. Okay. So you start at the cuff of the sleeve. And you knit the sleeves in the round. And I did mine 2 at a time because, that, I just like a giant sock. Not even a giant sock because my mom's small. So you knit the sleeves first. And once you get to the arm pit, you stop knitting in the round and you start knitting flat. And so you're knitting the back of the sweater. So you start at the arm and you knit, and then you're knitting, and it ends up looking like a shrug. Because then you do a 3-needle bind off and combine the 2 pieces. So now you literally have a shrug. It is the coolest thing. Now I did a 3-needle bind off with the bind off showing because I really like that detail in the picture, and I don't know if she doesn't have a lot of pictures in the pattern. She doesn't. The picture on the Ravelry page has the pattern on the Ravelry page has a lot more pictures. And I really liked the back detail And I thought it was done with the 3-needle bind off on the outside, but turns out it wasn't. But I did it anyway. I think what I want to do, so then you pick up stitches and you do the bottom of the, you do the back. And I think where I pick up those stitches, I want to do some kind of a, I'm going to, oh, I can't. Because I used I had the tiniest little ball. And I'm not finding it. I don't know what happened to it. It's not in my bag. The ladies at Knit Night said, oh, you got to keep that and share that on the podcast. And I have no idea where it is. Anyway, it was like this much. I probably have a yard. Maybe 2. I mean, I announced I'm playing yarn chicken here when I was starting my cast off. Because I was afraid I wasn't going to make it. So, in theory, I would do some kind of something along that edge to continue the graphic detail. And if I'd realized I was going to use every inch of my yarn and I couldn't do that, I would not have done the 3-needle bind off in that direction, so that it was so visible, but it's too late. It is what it is. But so then you do the bottom, and then you pick up stitches all the way around, and so the front and the collar are all knit together. It is so cool. And she has it in quite a few sizes. I mean, a really big range. But one thing that I thought was interesting, now I would, if I were doing this for myself, and I might yet do it for myself because I really enjoyed knitting it. I would knit a much larger size than I did for my mother. I would knit my mother the second smallest size, and I would, go up 3 or 4 sizes for myself. But the difference in the length of the sleeve was at least 2 inches between the 2 sizes. But my mother and I are the same height. And we have the same length of arms. So, you're going to have to use your own judgment when you're doing those kinds of measurements, because you just need to know what you're looking at. But this is a double moss stitch, which I had never done before. I've never done a textured sweater before, and I just love how this looks. And then it's got a garter border at the bottom, garter cuffs, and the collar and front are garter. And since this is a bulky yarn, it just knit up amazingly fast. And Dennis was so cute. I told him I was going to be knitting this sweater for my mother, and her birthday's in a month. And he's like, are you going to be able to do that? And I said, oh, well, this is bulky yarn. It'll knit up fast. He said, oh, I thought it might be DK. Mr. Knitting Talk. He's so cute. I said, nope, it's bulky, so it should knit up fast. And boy, did it. But I am so happy with this sweater. I just hope it fits her. Now, I made it very, very long. It's supposed to be, sort of wrap yourself in it and and snuggle in this sweater. So I made it really long, should hang down below her butt or to her butt. And I am so happy with it. So this is Rowan Cocoon yarn. And I would show you it in the yarn ball, but I apparently lost the little piece I have left. I'm sorry to say. But it's a beautiful bulky yarn. And it is warm and squishy. And nothing like fancy stitches to make a squishy sweater. So this is my second finished object. I knit a sweater for my mother. And I started it on Sunday, and I thought I was going to finish it on Tuesday. I was bragging on Instagram. I'm going to make it in 3 days. But then, we had a lot going on with the dog. So I didn't finish it till Wednesday night. But, oh my gosh, it was so quick and satisfying to do a sweater so quickly. I really, really loved it. So I just have to get rid of the ends and block that sweater. I'm tempted to kind of stretch it a little bit when I block it because my mother's very small, but so is the sweater. So I hope it's not too small. Well, we will see. But it turned out to be a lovely sweater, and I think it's worthy of an 85th birthday gift. She loves everything I make her, although I gave her one of the shawls I made. I made one of Helen Stewart's shawls. I made most of the ones from the first Shawl Society, and one of them I did in that DK alpaca that I have so much of, that I bought, 5 pounds of it. And I really like that shawl, but it was my mother's birthday coming up or something. And so I gave it to her, and she's like, oh, well, I guess I'm a grandmother. I don't think people who don't knit get the whole shawl thing. I think if you see someone walking around wearing a shawl, they're a knitter. Because I don't think other people really get the shawl thing. I apologize again for the glary glasses. I thought I had found my non-glare glasses, but it turns out I did not. I will look for them harder in the next 2 weeks, because I did think I had them when I came up here, and I didn't. So my last finished object, number 3, if you were keeping count, I finished while I was in North Carolina, is my Yaxa shawl by Janine McCarty, who is the Yarn and You girl. And it is a beautiful shawl. I really enjoyed it, and it has a lovely I-cord bind off. I really like. And this is Delicious Yarns. Delicious Yarn. Can you see that? Delicious Yarn. Frosting Sport. And these are so cute little nutrition tags. But this is 100% superwash merino. This is in 2 colors, blueberry and green tea. And I was pretty close to done, I think. Was I there? I think so, because I had an idea that I wanted to make it bigger, and Janine said I could add more stripes, but by the time I was already started the last eyelet section, so that's where I was. So I decided that I was gonna leave it. I was just going to make it the size it is, and I think it's going to, but I have not done my ends, and I haven't blocked it. So I think when I do that, it will be a little bit bigger. But frankly, even if it's not, this is a great size to wear it like a scarf. So I am very, very happy with it, and I really enjoyed knitting that yarn. That was a yarn box from quite a while ago. I think 2014 September, because the lot number is YB1409, so I think it was September of 2014. Since I wasn't knitting in 09, I know it wasn't then. So I've had this yarn for quite a while. And for a long time I thought, oh, that green is too bright. I don't like it, I love this shawl. I love the way it turned out. I love the colors together. I have a mess in my bag. I need to rewind my yarn, as you can see, but this is how much I have from the 2 skeins that I was using. But I have actually a whole nother skein of the green tea. So I'm going to put these together. And so I have enough for like an accent blue and make something with that green tea. This is a sport weight. And I think they'll be lovely. Some kind of, maybe, I don't even know what I'll make. A hat? I don't know. But I love them together, and I really, really enjoyed knitting this pattern. I highly recommend it. I gave this pattern away in our last podcast, so I hope the recipient is enjoying it. Let me see. Remind myself who won. Oh, I fired threads. Elizabeth. My memory is terrible. I'm terrible. I hope you're enjoying this pattern, Elizabeth, because I loved doing it. So I have to block this and weave in the ends. Because of the striping, there are quite a few ends. So luckily I have a Craftsy class that tells me how to do that. I'll go back and watch it again just to refresh my memory. But so this I'm really happy with, and this is going to be a shawl that I wear quite a bit, I believe. So those are my 3 finished objects, 2 sweaters and a shawl. I am still off my sock knitting. I didn't start a September sock. I didn't finish my August sock. No socks. Sorry. So, you know, I might have put in 2 or 3 rows of my socks in the 3 weeks, but I wasn't knitting socks. I knit sleeves instead. And my only work in progress, and this is what I did knit on the whole week I was in North Carolina, is my Monte Rosa. This is my 2nd Rhinebeck sweater. Used to be my first Rhinebeck sweater, but I finished the other one, so if it's finished, it's got to be first. Ooh, and look at this. You've never seen this before. Nail polish. While I was in North Carolina, Dennis's cousin had never had a pedicure, so I took her for a pedicure, her first pedicure. And while I was there, my nails looked so terrible, I had him do my fingers too. But you know, I can't keep nail polish on my nails. Or not good nail polish nails. But anyway, Monte Rosa by Isabel Kramer. I really like Isabel Kramer, and I had. This is where I was the last time you saw this sweater. So you do a provisional cast on. At the neckline. Because you're going to come back and pick up those stitches, the button band. So that's where I was. So I had just started the sleeves and all the detail. And this is where I am. So I have been working back and forth doing this cable. I start talking on the podcast and I start coughing. I don't know what that is. Cable down the front with the eyelet lace. You can see a little 2-stitch cables here and then 8-stitch cable here. And then a big patch of that down the back, which is beautiful. I'm really enjoying. And then the other side. Now I'm knitting this, it's knit top down, so you can try it on. So when I had just split for the sleeves, I put it on extra long needles and I tried it on to make sure that it was gonna fit me. And it's a little bit, I think it's a little bit tight, but it's not blocked. And I did wash and block my swatch. So I knew, you know, so I did not knit this in a generous size, but it should fit me when it's done. And I think when it's washed and blocked, it will be fine. But this has a little bit, it's going to have a tad of negative ease. And I don't know if that's what the pattern calls for or not. I don't remember. But, so I didn't do any waist shaping. When, you know, it has a little bit of waist shaping in the pattern, and I did not do that. I thought, I don't want to make it any smaller. So anyway, I am really happy with it. But I worked on this all week. I mean, I've been monogamous on this since I finished, well, I finished the cast, the I-cord bind off on the Yexa shawl an hour after I started knitting in North Carolina. So I have been monogamous on this for 8 days. Of course, you know, I did things in North Carolina. I wasn't knitting the whole time, but I was knitting a lot. So this is not, you know, this is the opposite of the Korean sweater in terms of how fast it is. Now, what is that? One of those doesn't look right. Oh, please don't tell me I did something wrong down there. Because there is no way. I'm going to fix that. There is no way. Oh well. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I think I might have like one stitch wrong in that cable because it's not laying right. I think I might have one stitch wrong in that cable. Right here. It's not laying right. It's not being changed. Not being changed. I did do, oh, maybe that's the one I did the surgery on, and so it's funny. I had to do surgery, and I can't believe it. I'm like the world's worst Instagrammer or podcast. I had to tear back, but I only tore back, I had to go back like two or three rows to this big cable to redo the cable because I had done it, I had one stitch wrong. And you can tell when you have the purl stitch wrong because when you look on the back, you can see how that purl stitch runs down the back. And, you know, when you end up with that purl stitch in the middle of your cable, you know it when you look at the back. And so two or three rows down, I realized I was off on my cable and my purl row stitch was in the middle of my cable when it was not supposed to be. So I actually dropped back all, I guess it would have been 10 stitches. And I had 5 needles. I had 4 stitches here, 4 stitches here, these stitches here, these stitches here. It was crazy. But I did it. I did it. Of course, that could be where I did it, and I didn't do it perfect. It's good enough. Good enough. It's only because I'm showing you, and the light is on it just right, that cable doesn't look exactly right. It's not laying right, but, you know, I might be able to do something about that, but either way, I'm not changing it. I will be fine with it. I am quite sure. And if I'm not, you'll find out about it next time. Because I'll think about it more now that I've found it and decide what I'm going to do. But this is a little bit, it's not exactly a slog, but that took me a long time to do all this knitting. Feels like I've been knitting on this a long time, and I'm really ready to get to the bottom of this part of the sweater and do the, I am going to do, it has a contrasting color. You can see it's obvious here, the contrasting color. I do have contrasting yarn in here that I'm planning on using. I got it, I showed it to you after Maryland Sheep and Wool, because I got it at Maryland Sheep and Wool. The yarn, the regular yarn I'm using on this is Fiber Spates Vivacious DK, and which is also a yarn box yarn that I got. I don't know when this was. This is in the deep aqua color, and I really liked it. So I got more. The thing about yarn boxes, they have a store. If they have any left over, you can buy from. So I was able to buy a sweater's quantity of this, and I really love the color. And this is what I got for my contrasting color. I got this at Maryland Sheep and Wool, and this is a very Northern Lights Fibers. It's a really interesting story, yarn company story. It was all in the news right around May. A lot of people were talking about it, and this is in the Atlantic. Atlantic is their put up, what it's called, and this is Jack's Blue. 2 islands, 2 hemispheres, 1 ocean. 100% Falkland Islands wool. And then it's all processed on handcrafted, minimally processed yarn made on Block Island. So this is a Block Island fiber. Each skein is personally handled from dyeing, carding, through spinning, finishing the product. A beautiful yarn. But anyway, it's Falkland wool. So maybe that presumably is the other island. So anyway, this will be my contrast color. And this is only 170 yards for 2.5 ounces. So this was pricey. Pricey wool. I bought it for the story. And because I was having a lot of trouble finding a nice navy blue, which is what I wanted for the contrast for this. So it was the perfect color, so I bought it since I only needed a little bit. But I don't know what I'll have left. Well, I don't have much to start with, so I won't have much to end with. But anyway, so that's my Monte Rosa. It is going to be my second Rhinebeck sweater. This is the first cable sweater. I mean, there was a cable detail down the front of the Malin sweater, but this one has a lot of cables. This is the first time I'm doing so many cables. So I'm enjoying it. I have finally memorized the pattern, so I don't have to look at the pattern. My problem with cables is I have trouble figuring out what row I'm on within the cable and when's the next time to start the next cable. And I figured out how to tell that based on the eyelets. And so when I get to this particular eyelet, I know this is my row where I have to do the cabling. And now I don't need to look at the pattern, and I don't have to keep, mark down keep mark, I've done this row, so, 8 rows. It's an 8-row repeat. So I'm rambling. Anyway, I can do it without looking at the pattern, which has helped me a lot. Every year in September, we go to Nags Head or the Outer Banks. It's not always Nags Head. Our house this year was in Kill Devil Hills. Across the bridge onto the Outer Banks, you can either make a left and go north, or you can keep going south. We keep going south, and there are 3 towns. Kitty Hawk, which is famous for flying, and the Wright brothers. Kill Devil Hills, and then Nags Head. And we were on Kill Devil Hills. And we always rent a big house. This house has 13 bedrooms. And everyone that goes is related in one way or another to Dennis's parents. So his father, who is 100, is the only one left, but he had, I think, 8 siblings, and so several cousins from his side of the family come. And on my mother-in-law's side, her brother comes, and his daughter comes. So Dennis has got a house full of cousins, plus he has 3 siblings who all come with husbands, and his nephew came. Anyway, the house is full of people all related one way or the other to Dennis's 2 parents, and so and therefore all related to Dennis. And we have a really good time. Every year Dennis's dad says he's not coming again. It's too hard because it's an 8-hour ride. With stops. But he came again this year, and I think he did okay, and he was really glad to be there. He loved being around his family, and so that was nice. And we had a great time. We were a little worried. We were driving into Irma. When we were planning this, Irma was not sure where she wanted to go. And I am so sorry for the people that she did visit. My friend Linda evacuated to New Jersey. I was very glad to hear that. She's not far from Tampa, and so I was glad not to have to worry about her. And I'm so sorry for everyone who did get visited by Irma, but we did not. And so we had beautiful weather on the shores of North Carolina, and we had a lovely time. And they have a yarn shop there, Knitting Addiction in Kitty Hawk. And I always go there and usually get a souvenir. And I got I got a ton of buttons, which she has, I did not buy myself any yarn. I did buy yarn, but I don't consider it for myself. My nephew, my brother's stepson, is going to have a baby soon. So I bought some Encore color spun Plymouth yarn, And this is machine washable and machine dryable, 75% acrylic, 25% wool. And so I got 2 of these to make a sweater for my nephew's new baby boy, who is due around Thanksgiving. So I have some time, but you will soon be seeing this because I will be making a boy sweater. I have a little grandpa sweater with a collar pictured in my mind. I'm sure I've seen it. I hope I favorited it. And the other things I bought were these little kits to make hats for my granddaughters. Isabel loves light blue, so she's getting the bear. And Sammy's getting the bright colors because I love this lion and these colors. These are the colors I want to knit. So Sammy's getting that hat, and Isabel loves light blue, so she's getting the bear. I wish this were a blue giraffe, but it's not, because giraffes are her favorite animal. If I found a giraffe, I might make her one of those too, just so she'd have her favorite color in one and her favorite animal. But I bought these and I realized these are the first knitting kits I have ever bought. So these will be, you can see the pictures, these will be cute little hats with instead of a pom-pom, they have a little stuffed head on top. And there's apparently a pattern on the inside of these labels. I haven't opened them yet, as you can see. But I realized these are the first kits I've ever bought. And they were cute and reasonably priced, and they will make adorable hats, and I have to make hats for the girls, so I will do that. So the other thing I bought, and I hadn't thought about this, and sorry about the paper. She had buttons. These are ceramic buttons that were ridiculously cheap. So this is 7 buttons for $15. Now the problem, I looked for buttons that would go on my sweater. And she didn't have any that I thought would work with my sweater, but I just couldn't resist the buttons. So I ended up buying way too many buttons. I have no idea what I'm going to do with these. They may end up in prize packages, or... Are these nice? That's going to be on a sweater for me. Those buttons are good size for a sweater. But I just thought these were lovely, lovely buttons. So I bought those. I thought they were just very reasonably priced, and so I wanted to support her. But I didn't find any yarn. I know, crazy, right? I am saving my yarn money. Well, apparently I was spending it on buttons, but saving my allowance for Rhinebeck. But I've also been feeling like, you know, I have yarn. I have a lot of yarn. I'm happy with my stash. And I didn't see anything. One thing about this yarn shop is she has a lot of what I think of as summer yarns. A lot of yarn with cotton, a lot, you know, and which makes sense because she's, you know, she's a summer resort shop. I mean, she has other things, but lots and lots of cotton, which I was not in the mood to buy, I guess. So anyway, but I spent plenty there, so I didn't feel like she didn't get any of my business because she did. But I have yarns in mind or places I want to stop in Rhinebeck, but I am not feeling, you know, sort of the need to buy yarn. You know, I haven't got a strong urge to buy yarn. How weird is that? Although I did just order some yarn from Fully Spun. Brooke, who has a podcast, and her podcast is called A Knit Soul, S-O-U-L. And her Instagram name and her YouTube channel is Brooke Knits, B-R-O-O-K-E Knits. I'm just putting it down there. Why am I spelling it out loud? Anyway, she did a telethon yesterday a live video on YouTube. I Instagrammed about it. I hope you checked it out. She was knitting a sweater for 24 hours. I mean, her original plan was to knit a sweater in 24 hours. That didn't work out. She didn't finish the sweater, but she knit for 24 hours on this live feed on YouTube to raise money for the victims of Hurricane Irma, which I thought was so lovely. So I taught, she had guests on to, have someone else talk for a while. So I was on yesterday afternoon, and I was very excited to help her in her goals. She raised over $1,000, and it was a really lovely thing. But she has a podcast. Check it out. The Soul Knit Podcast. The Knit Soul, sorry, Brooke. The Knit Soul Podcast. And she also has she sells yarn. But the interesting thing about her yarn is that she dyes the roving, and then she has the roving spun into yarn. So she does the dyeing when it's roving, which makes the yarn really beautiful, very much looking a lot like hand-spun yarn. So I was browsing around her website yesterday, and I ended up ordering some yarn. So you will see that when I receive it, and I expect to have it for my next podcast, so you will see it then. But it was beautiful. So that's the only yarn I bought for myself in quite a while, actually. I did buy some other yarn, ordered some other yarn for my fiber share partner. I am participating in fiber share, which is, I think it happens like 3 or 4 times a year, and it's a big swap. It's a giant swap. You actually pay $7 to be in the swap, so that's kind of interesting. But they do that because it's a big job to match everybody and do what they do. Plus, there are some people who sign up and then they don't ever send a package, and so they use that money to help make rescue packages, essentially, for the people who don't receive their package. But anyway, so I did order some yarn for my fiber share partner, and I will take pictures of that yarn, and I'll talk about that yarn once I know she has received her package, so I won't be showing it. Maybe I'll do a little video and put it in after. I have no idea if she watches this podcast, but I don't want to ruin her surprise of what's in her package. So those are some of my goodies. My other goodie is my yarn box yarn, which is a very pretty pink and gray. I'm really enjoying it. But the thing about this is BFL nylon, which I love. 80% BFL, 20% nylon. So, and it's in the color Pink Princess from Pearl Gems. And this is my sock yarn, my yarn box sock yarn, which I really like. It's soft, and I really like the color. And it just occurred to me I have another yarn that's, a little bit very similar to this. So maybe I will be doing a pink and gray shawl, because I lost my sock mojo. So no socks. But I really like this. So this is my yarn box sock yarn for September. I wonder if I should cancel my yarn box socks since I don't have any sock mojo. I'll have to think about that. Maybe switch to regular yarn box, because I do like having a surprise. Maybe I should just be in a lot of swaps. So our 24 days of cheer has ended. The cutoff for participating or signing up was on the 15th. And so I have been paired with Helen of the Crafty Toad. So I'm very excited. So Helen and I will be exchanging minis for an advent. So that's fun. I'm very excited about that. I love, oh, maybe she'll give me yarn that they dye, because their yarn that they're dyeing is so beautiful. I'm so excited. So I was very happy to be paired with Helen. I hope she's happy to be paired with me. I'm sure she is. Well, I'm sure she'll say she is because she's a lovely woman. In fact, we have a date for lunch next week. So by the time I podcast again, I will have met them again and had lunch with them. And, and I'll have my prize to show you, because I won an Instagram prize from them of a bag that I really liked. So that's exciting. But I won another Instagram prize from the cat lady. I won the Turnback hat. She had a giveaway on Instagram, which I participated in, and I won the pattern. So here's the Turnback hat, which is a cute hat. I just got it today because I'm so slow. But I really, it seems like a really cute hat. It's a fingering weight hat, and I have this idea that I want to make some hats for myself this winter. In fact, I had this passing idea. I'm not happy with my hair. I'm really not happy with my hair today, because my hair appointment is tomorrow. It's been, 6 weeks since well, anyway, you don't care. So since I'm not happy with my hair, it seems like I should have more hats, because I could wear hats. So I had this idea that maybe I should make a hat every month this winter for myself and end up with a few hats, because I only have 2. I made a hat last winter, which I complained about in my podcast because I didn't enjoy the knitting of it, although I really do like the hat. And I made that out of my hand spun. But I don't really have fingering weight hand spun at this point yet. So I also have 2 hats to make for Christmas, because my nieces have requested hats. Unfortunately, they both wanted black. So I'm thinking, if I'm making them black hats, I don't think they're going to be fingering weight hats. But I'm sure that's what they want, sort of slouchy, whatever. I guess I should make them what they want. But black fingering weight. Ugh. This is another pattern I bought. Isn't this pretty? This is a shawl. I couldn't resist it. My daughter is a medievalist. And these are what she calls her illumination designs. These designs are based on the borders of illuminated manuscripts from the Middle Ages, which I thought is the perfect thing for my daughter, although I already promised her a sweater, so I don't know when I will be making this. But I thought this was absolutely beautiful, and I think I have to make it out of these colors, because I think these colors are beautiful. Well, actually, I'll make them a little different. I'll do the main color, actually, the main color really is teal here. I don't know. What's the main color? The teal or the purple? I guess the teal. She has a beautiful tattoo that is from a manuscript, an illuminated manuscript of a stylized dragon that's in teal and kind of an orangey red. I have to take a look at her tattoo again and see what other colors are in there, because I'm thinking that I want to make it the colors of her tattoo. Anyway, so I have this as a goodie, but I bought that myself. And I bought a book, Little Red in the City, from Isolde Teague. I've been watching the Fruity Knitting podcast. I really like that podcast. It is a very well produced show about knitting. It's like a knitting show. And one of the things they do is they interview all kinds of people in the knitting world. And Isolde Teague was one of the people that they interviewed. And it made me very interested in looking at her patterns and seeing what she had done. And one of the things that she does with this book, Little Red in the City, which is one of the first books that she did, is that she shows her patterns on large women. This beautiful young woman is a big girl. And then, not big girl. So, I love that. Of course, I bought it used, so I don't know how supportive I'm being. But I was really interested in looking at this, and there's some, I like this pattern here, and there are other patterns in here that I like. And the other thing I have, I just got this in the mail, thank you Jerry, is the Knit to Flatter. This was one of the prizes in the Tour de Fleece with Sharon, Moms with Yarn. But I didn't win this. I won yarn. So I'm trading with Jerry because she won this and decided she didn't want to make her sweaters in pieces. Because this is Amy Herzog, and Amy Herzog likes to knit sweaters in pieces. And so I'm very fascinated by this because I am all about the sweater these days, as you can tell. So that's fun. So now I'm going to look on my paper to see what I have forgotten. So the last thing I wanted to talk about was my my local knitting shop where I bought the beautiful yarn for my mother's sweater. It's called Pearls of Wisdom, and I have been in there quite a few times. They've maybe it's been a year now. They moved to bigger quarters, but you know, I've never been there when the owner of the shop is there. I guess she has a, you know, day job. And she owns this shop. But when I was there last Saturday, 2 Saturdays ago, she was there, and I didn't know she was the owner. There were 2 lovely women working there. And, you know, so I'm standing there saying I should work here, but if I did, I wouldn't make any money. And they're like, oh, yeah, maybe you should work here. And we started talking. It turned out I was talking to the owner. And she said that what she needs is teachers, knitting teachers, to teach classes. And, you know, would I be interested? And I said, well, I've never taught a knitting class. I don't know how qualified I would be to teach a knitting class. But there are classes I wanted to take. I want to take a brioche class, and I want to take a color work class. You know, those are, if she were having those, I would be interested in taking them. And she's like, oh yeah, well, go learn those, and then you can teach the class, because I would love to have classes in those. So, but when I got back from, so she said, well, I'll be thinking about, you know, something that you would feel comfortable teaching. And, so I've been kind of thinking about that, and I just got on Ravelry today. I haven't been on Ravelry for a week because I wasn't with my laptop much. Anyway, she sent me an email or a message on Ravelry saying, hey, I watched your podcast. You're a spinner. Think about teaching, maybe you could teach a class for spinning, because I'd love to do that in my shop, or maybe knit your first top-down sweater. So I do not consider myself a very particularly adept spinner, so I would not want to teach a class on spinning. I don't think I'm qualified to do that. I would love to take a class about spinning, but the idea of teaching how to knit a top-down, knit your first top-down sweater, is kind of intriguing to me. I don't know if I've done training classes. I mean, when I worked my real job before I retired, I did do trainings. So I have done trainings. So I've taught things before. So I'm thinking about maybe, what do you think? What do you think about me teaching a your first top-down sweater class? And if I were to teach such a class, what pattern would be the best pattern for that? I suppose it would be best if it were a free pattern. But the chances of free pattern being the best pattern for that are probably not great. Anyway, so if you have any suggestions on what might be a good pattern for your first top-down sweater class, let me know. And if you have any suggestions on how that class would be taught, I'd be very interested too. Anyway, so I'm thinking about that. I just read that note from her today right before I was getting ready to do the podcast. So it's still perking in my mind. But thank you, Jennifer, if you watch this, for asking me, and I will email you. And I don't know. I shouldn't be thinking about this live on the podcast, because that's not really doesn't make for good television. But I'm thinking about it, so let me know what you think. I think that's about everything that is on my list. I made the list pretty quickly. The Nag's Head was a lovely trip, and we had beautiful weather. I walked on the beach. I was in the pool once. It was a little windy the first couple days we were there, so we didn't have too many pool days. But I hung out with family, played some cards, knit my sweater, and relaxed. And I did need that. It was right. We left the day after we lost Dasha. And so it did kind of put off the reality of Dasha being gone, because we would have had her at the kennel anyway. She wouldn't have been with us in North Carolina. So, so we had a week to sort of process it intellectually without having to sort of be home missing her. We could just miss her knowing she was gone without having it kind of in our, hitting us in the face every day. So we've been back, and that's, a couple of days, and so it's sad and kind of a little lonelier here in our house, but Pearl is lovely, and she's happy to be back, and we were so glad to be back with her, because we were really missing her while we were gone. But we had a lovely time, and we'll do it again next year. We really liked the house this year. Every year, when we first started going, we stayed at a house that had 8 bedrooms, and every bedroom has a bathroom. And it was across the road from the ocean. So out the front door was a road, a row of houses, and the ocean on the other side. And so we couldn't see the ocean very well, but we weren't very far from a public access. And we really liked it. It had a very private swimming pool. And we were pretty happy in that house. And we went back to that same house for, I think, 4 years. But between the 3rd and the 4th year, they changed the dining room table, and they had a big table that sat everybody, it was big enough for everybody who came to sit at this table, but they changed the table to be a higher table, and then all the chairs around the table were stools and not chair height chairs anymore. And those were not comfortable for us, and that was where everybody gathered. Everybody gathered there at that table. We ate there, we played games there, we sat there, read the paper. That's where everybody who wasn't out doing other things sat. And when they changed that table, that was the last year we were there. It wasn't comfortable, which means the house wasn't comfortable, and that was the end for us. And so we spent that week down there looking for a new house. And we decided, well, if we're going to get a new house, let's get one on the beach side. So we've been on the beach side ever since, we really like being right there on the ocean with the ocean behind us. And, but last year and the year before, we were in the same house, and we were really happy with it after the first year. But the second year, after a year, it was a much more rundown. We had a lot of problems with it. And so we weren't happy with it. So this year we have a new house. We're very happy with this house. We've already booked it for next year. And we're hoping, because every other year we've spent the whole week looking for next year's house because we weren't happy with the house we were in. Maybe we're picky. I don't know. But we thought about maybe looking for someplace besides the Outer Banks, because we picked the Outer Banks originally because Dennis's parents were living in Florida, and it was kind of halfway between, and everybody drove. But they're up here in Pennsylvania now, so we thought about maybe going to the Jersey Shore or someplace closer, because it does take us quite a while to get there. But we didn't find any place closer that had big giant houses like that right on the beach, because we had 13 rooms this year. We have 11 paying rooms, which everybody has a queen size bed or a king size bed and a lovely bathroom. And then there are 2 bunk rooms that have 8 beds between them and a bathroom between the 2 rooms. And those are for the people who, you know, can't afford to spend the money to pay for a room, or they can only come for a couple of days and that kind of thing. So those are our free rooms. So those are, you know, if you want to come down and, you know, the kids or the grandkids or whoever wants to come and just crash, we have those bunk rooms for them to crash in. But that's a lot of rooms. So we had this time 11 paying rooms, and we can only find those on Nag's Head. So that's kind of interesting. But we had a lovely time, and we're home, and we're glad to be home. And so I have to wrap this up because we have to take Dennis's sister and her husband back to the airport. They come in from California for this every year. This is part of the ritual. So Dennis, his other sister, lives about an hour from us, and his brother's about 40 minutes. So she's the far-flung one. So we'll take her back to the airport. So anyway, I hope you have lots of time to do the crafting that brings you joy. And I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.